tapas in Barcelona, cicchetti in Venice, and mezze in Istanbul. This week, it's all about small plates.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. Destination Eat Drink is for foodies who like to travel and travelers who love to eat. And this week, we're sampling bombas in Barcelona, little snacks with a spritz in Venice, and plates of pickles in Seville, and much, much more. But first, take a moment and rate and review Destination Eat Drink on your podcast app. Helps me out so much, and it also helps other foodie travelers just like you find the show, and thank you so very, very much. And if you're planning a trip to here in Portugal, be sure to download my foodie travel guide. It has the best things to eat and drink, local dishes, and fun things to do in 17 cities and towns in Portugal. Get your copy for just $9.99 at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink/extras. Okay, let's get going because it's going to take a lot of these small plates to fill me up, and I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Paula Morenza is a foodie tour guide for culinary backstreets. She tells me about the origin of tapas and the best tapas dishes to try in Barcelona.
Yeah, well, is that no tapas is originally is an Andalusian, or they have an Andalusian origin, but especially during the 20th century they were like expanding to all Spain, and initially as a very urban thing, no, in bars, and normally to give company to these drinks that people was having in bars, and especially in these bodegas, for instance, these bodegas very often they didn't have a kitchen. So they were serving basically the wine and a little something that could be preserved very easily, and then that you can cut and serve in a dish, no? Like a chorizo or a cheese, something like that, no? You cut it, you serve it, you are not cooking, you don't have a kitchen, everything is perfect. The wine and drink. And the reign of tapas, it was exactly that. It's unclear, but looks like it's connected with the excess of alcohol consumption in the medieval taverns or in the old school taverns of Andalusia.
Okay.
People was drinking too much, especially drivers of carruages that were transporting mercancy. They were drinking too much drinking, empty stomach. So looks like there are documents that talk about laws to make that taverns start to offer also food, not only drinking, to these drivers in order to protect the mercancy. Because what happens is that these drivers, they were having too much drinking, they were not able later to drive properly their carruages, and the mercancy was lost. So in order to keep the mercancy safe, they started to promote this law to ask or force the taverns to have little amounts of food to offer to the clients. So these clients, they didn't got too drunk when they went to the taverns. Looks like this is a probably origin of the tapas. Nowadays, as you said, we have all kind of tapas in all Spain. In other countries too. In Portugal, they also have their petiscos. It's a way of it, and in other countries of the world, I mean, this way of eating little amounts of food together with a drink, I think is something that you are going to find in a lot of cultures, even in Mexico, in Japan, I don't know. And in the case of Spain, if you came to Barcelona, you are going to find probably tapas from more or less all around Spain, because in every city there are always very special local elaborations, no? In the case of Barcelona, also because Barcelona population for a long time was built with people from all Spain around. A lot of Galicians came to Barcelona, a lot of Andalusians came to Barcelona to work, a lot of Castilians came to Barcelona to work. We can see all that in the tapas that we found in the bar. So it's possible to find typically Andalusian fried fishes, like fried anchovies, It's very easy to find the typical Galician octopus cooked with paprika over. This is from Galicia, no? Or maybe you can find the pinchos that they are traditional from the Basque Country. We have all kind of pinchos also in Barcelona. And then obviously the more traditional Catalan elaborations, like the snails a la jauna, snails a la gourmanda. You can find the tallerinas, these Mediterranean tiny clams that they could be like cooked very, very easily, grilled with a little bit of parsley and garlic over. You can find the bombas, for instance, is another tapa that it was created, as we know it in Barcelona, it was created in Barcelona. Another traditional Catalan tapas could be pieces of butifarra, or different kind of vegetable omelettes, for instance, like the artichokes omelette. Artichoke is a fantastic local proximity product in Barcelona. We have all these like alcachofas del Prat. El Prat is an area, maybe many people know it because the airport, but there are a lot of cultivation fields around this airport dedicated to artichokes, and it is very typical in the bars of Barcelona to find this omelette made of artichokes, that they are pretty like local. It's pretty local stuff, no? It's something that if you go to Valencia, for instance, that they have a similar, more or less similar culture, very close culture, you're not going to find exactly these elaborations, no? The cod is also fantastic in Catalonia. Not many people know about that. Cod culture is huge in Catalonia. The quality of cod, especially salted cod, is fantastic. And we have amazing dishes like esqueixada that you can find also as a tapa in a lot of bars. Esqueixada is a salted cod that was washed and then is stirred apart and served cold with some fresh peppers, a little bit of onion, maybe some olives, around sometimes also fresh tomato, and then dress it, no, with olive oil, a little bit of salt, a little bit of vinegar, and that's it. And it is a fantastic Catalan tapa. There are many others. You need to come here and taste.
Yeah, I've got to try them all. But I'm curious about the bombas because I hadn't heard of them until you started talking about them, Paula. What are bombas specifically?
Bombas are is a kind of tapa that was created in Barcelona around the 60s. Originally in a lovely, wonderful place that I love. The name is La Cova Fumada. It is in La Barceloneta. It is a place that has been there for 3 generations. And in the 60s, they started to make these balls. We call it bomba, like bomb in English. And they are rounded, like bombs. And they are made with mashed potato. Inside, they have a little bit of meat. And outside, they have cod butter with breadcrumbs, and they are deep fried like a croquette. Mm. And they are served normally with a spicy sauce that is like the house. A spicy sauce is always different, and it is part of the secret, no, of bombas, is how this spicy sauce is made. It started in this bar, but nowadays it's something that you are going to find in everywhere, basically, in all bars and all tapas bars.
So one of the great things about tapas is that you can go from bar to bar and try different specialities. Is there a place you think, Paula, in Barcelona that we should go that has a nice concentration of tapas bars, maybe a street or an area or a neighborhood where we can walk to several tapas bars and try lots of different things in one evening?
For example, we mentioned before Poble Sec, this neighborhood that is in the site of Montjuic. In Poble Sec, there are especially 2 streets that they are this continuation of bars and bars and bars and bars and bars. So in between Carrer Blai and Vilà i Vilà, you have a lot of possibilities to taste, especially a lot of pinchos, I have to say, in this area. Because depending on the area you are and the bars that you visit, tapas, they can change a lot. They could be more like pinchos. If you go to a bodega, they normally are more simple tapas, things that they are not especially cooked, especially elaborated, no, that they are simple. But, and also some of the best anchovies, for example, and pickles and all these tiny tapas that they go typically with the vermouth that they are the 50% of the vermouth enjoyment, all these fantastic anchovies marinated in vinegar or cured in salt, that these ones are a treasure, absolutely. These ones you can have then in a lot of bars and neighborhood bodegas, even those ones that they don't have a kitchen to make elaborated, more complex things, no? But we have also these other kind of bars with more sophisticated tapas. Sometimes they could be really like very high-level cuisine, and they are just tapas, no? What you are eating these small portions to share. We have many different kind of tapas. They could be, because sometimes we use the word like in a very generic way, no? But at the end of the day, they could be pinchos. What they are normally, pinchos is a small piece of bread with different ingredients over. They could be proper tapas, what normally are like a certain amount of the same, like chorizo, like a dish of cheese or olives. This is a proper tapa, original tapa. But they could be also portions, raciones of something, a dish more elaborated, served in a way to share. So now tapas is something really bigger. And for example, if in Poble Sec you can have a lot of pinchos, then if you go to Gracia, there are a lot of small bars where you can have a lot of modern tapas.
Katie Parla is a New York Times best-selling author, podcaster, and tour guide in Italy. She tells me about the little plates called cicchetti in Venice. And one of the things that jumped out at me first when you were talking about Venice was something called Select Aperitivo. What exactly is Select Aperitivo?
Select is a red bitter liqueur, which has relatively low alcohol by volume, I think around 12 or 13%. So it falls under a category of liqueurs that in Italy are called aperitivo. The color is dark red, very similar to Campari, which has about double the alcohol by volume and goes by a category known as bitter, spelled bitter. So in northern Italy in particular, there was a tradition of cities developing red bitter liqueurs for use in usually lighter cocktails. So in Venice, Select is born about 100 years ago. In Padova, Aperol is born. And then Campari in Milan, and up in Trento, Cappelletti. About 10 years ago, the Campari company acquired Aperol and conducted a very aggressive and super successful campaign to marry Aperol with the spritz in the mind of consumers, first in Italy and then worldwide. Before that spritz was, remained kind of a regional thing. And if you were in Venice and you asked for a spritz, there wasn't like a choice. They would just give it to you with Select. And they would mix the Select, with the typical spritz ingredients, sparkling wine and sparkling water. Today, if you order a spritz al Select, you impress the bartender because they think, you know what you're doing. And you're not going for the Padova liqueur, Aperol, which makes them very regionally proud. And spritz is something that it probably maxes out at around 6 or 7% alcohol by volume. It's super fun and flirty looking. It looks like a red sunset. It's served with spiked green olives or sometimes an orange wheel. And it's meant to whet your appetite. In aperitivo culture, generally in Italy, you have one of these light red bitter based cocktails just to get your juices flowing before a meal. Venetians are very heavy drinkers, however, so sometimes they'll start drinking it in the morning and keep drinking it throughout the day. And so it doesn't serve the same appetite whetting, but more like something that you can drink all day without being totally trashed at work.
So we get a Select Aperitivo, and we're in Venice, so we're going to have cicchetti, which are the small plates that are similar to tapas, but don't dare call them tapas in Venice. Otherwise,
it's like
my buddy Monica will just come down your throat. She's wonderful, but she's like Gollum Cicchetti. So what kind of cicchetti are we going to have with our select?
Totally depends on where you are, because there are places that go super old school and they use a little piece of polenta with a grilled baby cuttlefish on top, or some polenta with a little bit of bacala mantecato, which is a salted cod spread. Others will use toast, and bread and toast in general are relatively new additions in Venice. And they tend to be like frozen baguettes that are not the, let's say, apex of baking culture. Others will use little toasted pieces, like a sort of crostino. In all cases, the carbohydrate is the vehicle for delivering whatever happens to be on top. And these are usually like 2 or 3 biters, things that you can eat standing up, balancing your spritz and your plate at a baccaro, which is kind of like the watering hole in Venice. But now there's just such a huge range of things that fall into the snacks category and kind of go beyond cicchetti, like tramezzini are absolutely everywhere. And places that sell cicchetti will also sell little triangular sandwiches with the crust cut off, filled with tuna and egg, or sort of spicy chopped bell pepper mayonnaise. There's lots and lots of fillings for these things, but I think cicchetti is a state of mind. It's a concept that now has grown to cover a lot more than just those small Venetian bites. And when you like hang out with Venetian friends in February, there was carnival going on, and so people would invite you out to cicchettare, right? Cicchettando. It's now become a verb, to go like graze on lots of little bites, have a drink
cool.
at each spot.
I love eating like this, whether I'm in Spain or whether I'm in Italy. Here in Portugal, we have petiscos. This is my favorite way because you can have a little something, enjoy it, maybe have a glass of wine or whatever you have, and then you move on to the next place. And this is a way, I was talking with friends about this yesterday, this is a way you get to sample a lot of different things, especially when you're on vacation. It's like you go to a restaurant and you eat this big giant meal and then you don't want to have anything else. And it's like, well, maybe it was fantastic, but if I can have 2, 3, 4, 5 different things, then I'm really, really happy.
It's also an affordable way to eat in Venice, which is a city where I will, of course, acknowledge there's some people doing great food, but it is generally a city where people who own restaurants, and particularly people who buy the ingredients for the restaurants, don't really respect the clientele very much and aren't committed to sourcing fresh fish and great produce, though the prices imply that they're using really high quality stuff. When you go out in Venice and have, the portions are also much smaller here than in other parts of Italy. So while in Rome, if you ordered antipasto, primo, secondo, contorno, dolce, you would like roll out of the place. Here, in order to be full, you do kind of have to get the whole shebang. And that ends up being so much money. $80, $100, $150 a head is not unusual for a meal made with fresh ingredients, produce from St. Erasmus, the farm island here, fresh fish caught in the lagoon. Like, that's a lot of money. And you could just go cicchettare for 20 euros and you get your snacks and you get your booze and you feel kind of full. And it's a really affordable way to eat. That's how Venetians experience their city, because going out to eat, even with the local discount and the cash discount, both of which are very real things, it's not accessible to go out and eat well here.
Pilar Rubio is a foodie tour guide in Seville. She tells me about the unique small plates in her city. You brought up the eggplant, and eggplant is another thing that the North Africans brought to Seville and to southern Spain 1,000 years ago or so. And I love eggplant. It's one of my favorite vegetables, and it's prepared in this wonderful way in southern Spain, in Seville, in Cordoba, where they make little eggplant fries. They bread them and then they deep fry them, and then they serve them with with a sugar syrup. It is spectacular.
Yes.
And I love your idea of dipping the fries in the tomato soup. It's such a cool idea. I've only had them by themselves as its own little dish. But is eggplant fries? There must be other ways that eggplant is prepared in Seville in southern Spain.
It's the most popular way that you're going to find in the tapas bars is this.
Okay.
It's fried with this molasses or with salmorejo. In the restaurants, you can find, more elaborated things with eggplant. But in the bars, normally this is what you are going to find. In the bars, there's a lot of fried stuff, but there's a lot of cold stuff that I didn't finish. Not only salmorejo and gazpacho, but you're going to find marinated potatoes, marinated roasted peppers, maybe beetroot marinated, or carrots, or artichokes, and that is what we love in the summer. But also, there's a lot of fried stuff. Right? One of the flag tapas here in Seville is fried fish.
Okay.
We eat a lot of fish in Spain, and also fried vegetables. There is a bar in Triana with a very special tapa. The place is called Bistec. It's in the parish square, and they serve zucchini, just sliced and fried zucchini, and they are delicious, of course. And also, a lot of croquettes and fish of all kinds, just dusted in flour and then fried in olive oil. And that is something that you need to try it also here in Sevilla. I don't know if you went to a freiduría, these places that are specialized only in fried fish. They only serve fried fish.
No, I didn't.
And it's a super popular thing. But then you need to come back.
Obviously.
It's one of the most popular options and traditional here in Sevilla. And when I was a child, there was no pizza or burger in this city. There was fried fish and roasted chicken. That was the only takeaway. And there was no pizza day. There was fried fish day. And we were super happy. Normally on Friday, of course. We are so Catholic.
No meat on Friday. So this was your fast food. That's so interesting. Pilar, one of the things that I loved about the bars, and you mentioned this, was all of the pickled vegetables, because my experience was you walk into the bar and you see this display under glass of all the different pickled vegetables. And I'd never seen anything like that before I got to southern Spain, until I got to Seville. And I was just blown away, because I would go in and I'd be like, all right, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. You got the marinated carrots, you got the marinated cucumbers, you've got all of these different pickles, all of these different kinds. And man, it goes great with a glass of sherry too. But I love the pickled carrots. We've attempted to make them at home now. It's one of our staples that we enjoy at home. And then I guess artichokes weren't quite in season yet. I guess they come in season in the spring, and we were there in the winter, so we didn't get any marinated artichokes. But man, we had a lot of really great pickles. I mean, some of the best pickles I've had anywhere on the planet were in Seville.
Wow. This is again an Islamic North African tradition. When the Muslims arrived here in the Middle Ages, they brought a lot of things. And this is one of the things that stay today. Because I found when I traveled to Morocco, I discovered that to start the meal, they bring you a lot of little plates with veggie pickles.
Oh, okay.
It's like little salads. And it's wonderful. And we do it also here. And yes, it's perfect with sherry. Sherry is perfect with everything. But a glass of dry sherry with these pickles is the best way to start. Yeah. There is a bar, sorry, Brent. I don't know if you went to this bar. Also in Triana called Las Golondrinas.
Yes. I love that bar. I love the pickles in that bar. And we had great wine there too. That is a great bar. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes, because if people go to Seville, they have to go to this bar. It is so good. Uğur İldiz is a foodie travel guide in Istanbul, Turkey. Ur tells me about the culture of mezze in his city. I love the small plates. I love this way of eating because you get to sample a lot of different things without getting absolutely stuffed. So describe for me some of the different kinds of mezzes that we might get when we're in Istanbul.
Boy, it's endless.
Good.
The mezze is meant to be had alongside our favorite drink, the national drink called rakı. Even though our current president would like to have ayran, a non-alcoholic yogurt drink, as our national drink, people are not buying into that. We still claim our national drink as rakı, which is much like the Greek ouzo, made from the distilled grapes, the alcohol distilled from the grapes, flavored with aniseed. So it has a strong licorice flavor. And mezze is created actually to accompany the drink. Because when you're having rakı, the motto is never on its own, never on your own. Always with food and with company you are supposed to be enjoying it with. And
good.
The best company to rakı food-wise is the variety of the mezzes. You can just dine on mezzes and not move on to the main course actually, which is the best way to do with small bites. Eggplant, when it comes to mezzes, eggplant will be used heavily with 20 maybe different ways of it being served, mixed with tomatoes, mixed with yogurt, mixed with garlic, and so on. Then some yogurt, we Turks, like the Greeks again, we love our yogurt. So some strained yogurt with dill in it, with garlic in it, as a dip for the bread, goes well alongside rakı. Of course, hummus, which is mainly actually an Arabic dish, is popular. Topped with some pastrami sometimes, or roasted pine nuts along with other things. Those are some of the favorite ones.
Okay, that's Ur from Culinary Backstreets. You can book a tour with him in Istanbul, with Pilar in Seville, or Paula in Barcelona at culinarybackstreets.com. And you can find out more about Katie Parla at katieparla.com. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, another great place to visit. We're in Cairo for pickles on your falafel, dolma cooked by mom, and proving your kitchen skills to the in-laws. Don't miss that. Until then, get over to destinationeatdrink.com. I've got a bunch of new stuff there for you. There's a story of the bar in Belgium where you have to give up your shoe to get a beer. Read that and see the pictures at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. I also posted a brand new video. Lots of people asked me about the cost of living here in Portugal, so I posted a video outlining a monthly budget for living here. You can see that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. And I've got 24 foodie travel guides available for download. All the best things to eat, the local dishes you must try, and drinks and fun things to do in places like Lisbon, Milan, Seville, the Azores, and much, much more. Get yours at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink/extras. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Edzilla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson, and I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.